Okay, so you can see that I have both part 1 and part 2 folders open in VS Code. And right there, I just opened up the solution file. Your file names and folder names are going to be slightly different. It's all okay. Just find where you wrote the code for part 1. Open that file in VS Code, copy all of it, and then go to your new index.html and paste the contents there and save it. You see that I'm collapsing the script and style elements here just to save some screen space so that I can quickly cut this content out in a second. So now I'm going to make a folder for the JavaScript and the CSS. Again, we're separating the files into, we have a file for HTML, we have a file for JavaScript, and then we have a file for the CSS, and those are all going to be served separately by our web server. So I'm going to make just a basic folder structure on the file system here to hold the JavaScript and the CSS. So I'm going to add a new file to the JavaScript folder. I'm going to call it main.js. The name here doesn't really matter. Main is kind of common, but what matters is what we link to it in our HTML file in a minute. So I created that file, and what I'm going to do is copy all of the script tags. I have 2 of them. So one has the Wordle class and one has the DOM content loaded event listener. I'm going to copy or select those, and I'm going to cut them here. And then I'm going to go back to the JavaScript file. I'm going to paste all that content there. But here we actually see all these red lines, these squiggles, something's wrong. That's because there are these script tags in here. And in a JavaScript file, which ends in .js as the file extension, you don't need those script tags because that's HTML. That's not actually JavaScript. So I'm going to delete the script opening tag and the closing tag, and there's 4 of them total. Everything should be looking good after you delete those lines. I collapsed the class there just to save some screen space again. Look at how beautiful this is. And again, there are no script tags. Okay, well now you might be asking yourself, well, how do we go back to the HTML and then pull in our script tag there and get our JavaScript running on the page again? If you're to load this HTML file right now without the script tags that we just removed, nothing would happen. There would just be HTML, some styling, there would be no interactivity. So to reference an external JavaScript file, you add another script tag, but this time it's slightly different. We're going to add a source attribute here, and we're going to give it the file path to our separate script on the file system there. So JS is the folder, main.js is the file name. That .js extension is a JavaScript file. And that's about it. So now when Chrome renders this web page, it's going to say, hey, there's another script tag here, js/main.js. And I'm going to go request that resource from the web server, and then I'm going to get it, and I'm going to start running the JavaScript on the page. So we're going to repeat the process here with the CSS. I highlight the style tags, the style element, and I first forgot to make my CSS folder. So again, this folder structure doesn't exactly matter. It's just kind of pretty common. Here I'm going to use index.css again. The name doesn't really matter, but again, it's a common name. I'm going to cut the CSS content from the HTML, and I'm going to paste it right in this CSS file. And this CSS file is, its file extension is .css because it's CSS. And just like the JavaScript, we're going to remove the style tags in this because, again, this is now not HTML. This is a CSS file, so we do not need any of those HTML style tags in here. So once you paste that content, you remove the style tags, go ahead and save that and go back to the HTML. And you might be asking yourself, well, how do we link now a separate style sheet to our web page? And again, I'm just going to show you, you can easily find this out if you just look at any old web page that has CSS. So this is a little opening tab. It has a beautiful picture of art. I'm just going to right click inspect here to open up that HTML inspector in Chrome. I know the font is a little small. I apologize. But here you can see in the head section of this page, they have a link element, L-I-N-K, link, and it has an href attribute that says new tab.css. So that's a file name, new tab.css, just like we have a CSS file. So it looks like we can use this link tag, and here's some documentation for it. It says the external resource link element. So if you have a CSS file, you can say, okay, link href equals path to my file css slash index.css, and we're going to tell the browser, hey, this is a style sheet now. You need to pull this file down, and you need to apply it to the web page, and all the styling included inside of it. You can have font files. It's going to have a slightly different rel link or attribute value saying that this is a font file, not a style sheet. So this is how you pull in external CSS. Okay, so I've added my link file, I've added my script file, I've referenced the files that I now have on disk, and this is the end of this part. Now our web page is sliced and diced, much like any modern web page would be, where you have separate script files and CSS files. And so now all we need to do is start a server to serve out these files when requested.